just going to start this. Okay. So today we're just going to talk about a couple different things. So we're going to go over what, after my observation, like the recommendations that I suggest for your small group time. And then I'm going to show you kind of how I do a small group, one example of one activity that I've done with my small group. And then one of the recommendations that I gave was the ask three before me.
Oh, we have been doing that.
Yeah,
and
so
it
we'll
works.
talk about that and see how that's going for you. And then the last thing I wanted to do is look at your data and how you choose, because you being on the dual language side, it looks different,
It looks
than
different,
what Gen
yeah.
Ed, which I'm working with the Gen Ed, so it looks different. So I would like to look at your data and see how that's driving your small group instruction. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So I'm just gonna pull up really quickly. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up your feedback really quickly, and we'll just go through that, because we've kind of already talked about that a little bit.
Okay.
So one of the things that, is the ask three before me. So you've already implemented that,
Yes.
right? So that's where, if I'm at small group and I have my group here, the students that are working at stations that are working independently or with their group, they're not going to come and inhibit my
Interrupt,
small group
yeah,
as much, right?
yes.
So that's working good for you?
It's working, and I know Miss Collinson is doing it.
She started using
Yes,
it too. Good.
and like it's working. Right now in the morning, she was like, "Ask three before me," and the boy said, "I did," and then she's like, "Okay, tell me who did you ask for help?" And then so he needed help from her because
Right, he did ask the
Yeah.
other three. Right. So, and there is a time where they really do probably need help, but like during my observation, they were a couple of students were having trouble with technology, right?
yeah.
And there were other students that were on that technology that was working for them. So, if that had been implemented, they could have then gone to them and said,
True.
"Oh, you're in here, so how did you? Can you help me get in?" And then maybe they couldn't. Sometimes with me,
Yeah, and
They
that problem
can't.
got solved because it was something that they couldn't.
yeah, exactly.
They had to like clear all of the history that it was not letting them go into that.
Exactly.
webpage.
So that is something that comes up a lot. To fix that, if they will completely power down their Chromebooks every night, it automatically updates.
Yeah.
If they're not powering down their Chromebook before they go plug it in, then after a little while, you're gonna have to go in and automatically do those
All
updates
right,
for them.
so-
But if they will not just like, you know how they'll do this and turn it off, but if they will like hold it, do shut down, completely shut it down, it'll update itself.
Okay.
So I found that out the hard way last year because I was like, what is happening? And I was having to update 20-something Chromebooks every couple of weeks. So yeah, they'll just completely shut that down. That'll help that.
All right.
But so I'm glad that
Yes,
recommendation
thank you.
was working.
Thank you.
So the other thing that I recommended was using something for them to be able to see without having to ask you where to go next.
Yes.
So if they're like, I noticed you had a little like a bell that you use
Yes.
if they're getting too loud or whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that's what during your observation, I figured out that that's what that was
Okay.
for. I kept waiting on you to hit that, and then they were going to rotate because I thought maybe they like.
We haven't been rotating.
Okay.
So that's the thing that I need to work on. Like
Okay.
they rotate into a different station.
Right.
Yes.
So in this, I sent you some optional things that you could make a copy of. Some optional.
Yeah, like the
small
Google
group-
slide.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in these, one good thing about these is they have a timer embedded in them.
Okay.
So when you pull that up on your smart board and you start that timer, I don't know how much time do you have for your small group?
15 minutes.
Fif-
That's what we have.
Total, or like you rotate through every 15 minutes?
No, it's like total.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So then you're doing small group how many small groups do you have?
2.
2.
Yeah, because I have like my low students, and
Okay.
then I have my higher.
Okay,
And sometimes I will have like time to meet with the two of them,
okay,
and sometimes I would just be able to join with one group.
okay. So ideally, what you would have more time than that.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you would have more time than that, and you would set your timer for 10 minutes, or
Mhm.
say you had a 30-minute block and you wanted to
Yeah.
get 3 groups in, then I would set my timer for 10 minutes.
10.
I'd put it embed a 10-minute timer. Then when I start that, then they know. So you had some that were working on their social studies, like their vocabulary.
Yeah.
So after that 10 minutes, then they would know, put that bin away and then go get the next bin.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you had it set up at tables where they actually rotated to a different table, however you had it done, however you have it set up. That way you're not having to explain materials every time, right?
Sure.
You do it at the beginning of the week and you say, these are our stations for this week. And like I would use a bucket similar to your blue and red buckets there and label it like station number 1. So everything that they need is in there, and I just I only have to describe it on Monday.
Okay.
Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So, and then maybe they need pictorial representation, and that's why I liked this slide, is because it had some pictorial representation of what the stations
Okay.
are. This is the one that I use because I only do one small group a day.
Yeah.
So I have Mondays, I do whole group lesson, and I'm gonna show you guys that when we get together tomorrow afternoon,
Okay.
what that looks like for me. So Mondays I do whole group lesson, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday
Mhm.
I do small groups. So I have 3 small groups, and every Tuesday the same group comes to me. Every Wednesday the next, every Thursday the next, and then on Fridays I do what we call Fun Friday.
Okay.
So anybody who didn't get to work with me, I can pull them. But everybody that did get to work with me, I pick something different each week. Like we might do Cahoots, we might do a Gim Kit, we might turn off all the lights and get finger lights and read with finger lights under our desk, and
Okay.
that kind of fun something.
Yeah.
I might just tell them they can log in and go to anything in My Clever. I put some fun like typing and things in My
Yeah.
Clever, and they could go. So Fridays we do Fun Fridays.
All right.
So that way, so I have my 3 groups and I just meet with them once a week.
Okay.
And but I do it for 30 minutes, right? Because
Right.
I have them for 40 minutes is the block, but 5 minutes to go pick them up, 5 minutes to get things cleaned
Yeah.
up. So really, it's only about 30 minutes
Mhm.
that we actually get to work a small group. So you might consider that instead of
Sure.
trying to do your groups every day,
Mm-hmm.
every group every day. You might consider breaking it out, and so you just work
Yeah.
with your tier 1 group on this day, your tier 2 group on this day, and your tier 3 group on this day.
Yes.
So that's another thing that I really try to do as well. When I set up my days, I tried to set up all my tier 1
Okay.
kids, so that I'm using the same materials with them. Then the next time, all my tier 2 kids,
Oh,
because
okay.
my guided books are gonna be a different level, right?
Sure.
So I try to set them all, so that day I'm doing all that
You're
book that
grouping
day.
them according to.
The next day I'm doing all that book for those
Yeah.
kids, and then my tier 3 kids. Like my tier 3 kids are working with recognizing their letters.
Yeah.
So what I can do with them and what I can do with my tier 1 kids are
It's not the same.
right.
Yeah. In my case, I only have one girl that she is struggling a lot with reading and writing, and it's because she doesn't recognizes most of the syllables or even sounds.
So is that in both languages? Is that in her primary language and her?
In both languages.
It's in both
Yeah.
languages. Okay. Now, are y'all gonna visit that about possibly having her tested?
We have to meet with mom
Okay.
and tell her about the recommendations that we talked in the
Okay.
RTI meeting.
Okay. All right. So y'all are still waiting to meet with
Yeah.
mom. Okay. So good deal. So you're recognizing that, and it may even be where if you set it up, if you were saying you only really have 2 groups, you don't have to have 3
Yes.
groups. So it might be there where one day is just you and her small
True.
group. And I have lots, because I have that in every I have tier
Yes,
that
in
group,
every
tier 3 in every. So I have a lot of materials that I can share with you that
Okay.
could help her with recognizing those letters and recognizing those sounds,
Okay.
and some online things I can show you that she could be doing on the days that she's not back at your small group.
All right.
So like her station might look very different than somebody else's station.
Yeah, because she's like not able to do what the rest of the class is doing. So
Right.
I will appreciate it.
Okay, sweet. So we'll talk about some things that you can do. You can put it into your Clever, and you can say, go into my
Perfect.
Clever and go to this,
Perfect.
and you can assign specific things for her. So
All right.
we'll talk about that too.
All right.
So this is the one I use. This is the
Mhm.
rotation I use, and then this was another example. And again, they've got that timer embedded in there, and then they've also got the pictorial representation. So they know. So this person in particular on the desks, she actually has like a colored piece of tape or a colored dot
Yes.
that coincides with what their group is. So
Okay.
turquoise would have a turquoise dot on their desk. The green
green.
group would have and that might change, right?
Yes.
Because every time we meet for RTI meetings, my groups change a little bit. Because if I had somebody who has shown a lot of growth, I obviously don't want to leave them
Yeah.
with that
you
tier
can-
3 group.
you
I
can
want to
move
bump them into another.
Mhm.
So that might change
All right.
a lot.
Yes.
So your color dot might change on their table because they may
Sure.
no longer be in that group or whatever.
Sure.
But so I thought that was a cool one as well. So this would just display on your board during that time,
Okay.
and then they would know, okay, I'm green group. Okay, I'm gonna go get the green bucket, or however
Yes.
you have it,
Okay.
and then that cuts down you
A lot.
having to do so much
Explaining.
explanation.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think that's a good tool, and
Mhm.
and if you need help editing those or anything, I can help you do
Thank
that
you.
too. And then so our other my other recommendation for you was to create those bins or buckets. So what that looked like in my classroom when I was a classroom teacher, what that looked like, I might have a math,
Okay.
like I'm just trying, like this, like I might have a bin like this, and it would have like a math game in it that
Oh,
they could
okay.
play together. And then I might have a social studies bin, and then I might have, and that would just be laid out on my back table back there.
Okay.
And
so
and I would
they
use
can
like
just grab-
little clips and say like station 1, station 2, station 3, station 4.
Okay.
And then so they know, okay, today I'm at this for 10 minutes. And then when the 10-minute timer goes off, I put everything back in that bucket. It goes back on the back thing. I get station number, whatever my next
Okay.
station rotation is.
Okay.
So then everything's in there for them, right?
Yes.
And so that's another option of, just having to keep you from having to get up and go
Yeah,
get.
they're handy. And,
Yeah, yeah, having to keep you from having to do all of that. So,
Mhm.
let me just check this really quick. Okay, we got about 3 minutes.
Okay.
So the last thing I wanted to look at was your data.
All right.
So tell me, so we use M-Class in Gen Ed, and then I use Waggle. What do y'all use?
I'm using M class too.
Oh, you are using M-Class,
Yes.
okay.
So yesterday in the POC meeting, since we're basically doing the same too for the February 28th, we have to like take data and take how are we working with them, or what skills are we practicing during small groups to see their growth.
Okay.
So I was telling them that most of my kids on one group, since I have two groups,
Right.
mine and the one of Wisconsin. So this one, the first one, they're really good, and you can see most of them are like in the advanced. They're
okay.
advanced, and then I have like 4 or 5 that I have to work on. For example, them, it's the comprehension,
Okay.
the reading comprehension, and then I just have one girl that I told you that she's the one struggling
Right.
with the letters and sounds and syllables and all, and then I have Eric that he's in the RTI, but what we discussed in the meeting is that we have seen that he has shown
He is
growth.
showing some growth.
Yes, so it's very interesting what you said that I should have that I have not been doing. I should have a day with Daisy in which I just focus with her, because what I was doing is that I was tutoring her after school,
Mhm.
but that just have had been like twice.
Okay.
And I really need more time.
Right.
Because like my goal for the end of the year might be that she's able to full recognize syllables, sounds, and letters.
Right.
That way, because possibly next year she's gonna be retained in second grade because she's not ready for third grade.
Right.
'Cause she's not managing either
Right.
English or Spanish. So I group her with the low kids, but still, like if I ask questions about reading comprehension, she's gonna get it because she's like trying to, to answer and to get involved.
Yes. Right.
But if we're reading a text, for example, she's just gonna be looking at the pictures.
Right.
She's not gonna be actually reading.
Right.
And what we do during the small groups basically is we pick a genre, either nonfiction, fiction, according to what we are practicing that week, and picking a book according to their level.
Okay, so that's great. So I love that that is driving your small group.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider picking a day that you work with her.
Yes.
And then
because I've been trying to work with her in the morning,
Yeah.
but she always comes late.
Right.
So it's
yes.
She
So
comes
I would-
at 8, so
so
I would love
I
to
would
have
try
like
that.
advantage of.
But let me show you kind of what a small group looks like for me in my classroom.
And we have one, and I have to go and pick them.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Okay, so really quickly, what I would so my whole group lesson this week was CVC words, so consonant, vowel, consonant. So we did a whole group lesson all together using Nearpod, all about consonant, vowel, consonant, and teaching them that. Then we come back to my station, and because most of mine are pretty low, I start with a letter recognition. I let them match pictures with the letter of the beginning sound. Or if it's a little higher level group, I might say, I want you to match it with the middle sound. If it's or the ending sound. I can pick any one of those sounds, and they have to take that picture, and then they have to match it with the letter.
Okay.
So that's the beginning. Then, but for you, if you can only work with them for 15 minutes, like that would be your whole small group time with them. So instead of doing that, you would put that as a station.
Okay.
So that might be a station for you. Then after that, we talk about, okay, this week with our whole group lesson, we've been working on CVC words. So I use these and they, I pass them out. So each kid gets 2 to 3, depending on how big my group is. And then I teach them they have to touch it and sound it. K, ah, and then can. They have to put it together, right? So I model that for them, what that looks like. And then I give each of them one card the first time, and then I just make them do it for me. So, and they each do it for me. Then I divide up all of these cards, and they each get about 2 or 3 each. And then they have to do it on their own, and they have to find the picture that matches the word. Right? So we do this one set together. So this is my modeling, and then my guided, we're doing it together. Then I give each individual student one of their own, and they have to do the whole deck.
Oh, okay.
And if they finish, then they can and I'm there. And the nice thing about these is I don't have to check it for them. They can also self-monitor. So these have the answers.
Oh, okay.
So I tell them they can't take this out until the end. This has to stay in. And then once they get them all, then they're going to self-monitor. But I'm there as I'm observing the other, so that they can see. But so anyway, that's one thing that you might, and it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to buy these kind of things, but something similar to that is, and this is what we do in SIPs too. Do y'all?
We don't do SIPs.
Okay, so this is very similar to how they teach it in SIPs. That's why I like these.
Yeah.
Because they teach it like that in SIPs as well.
Okay.
So anyway, that's just an option of a station that you might, or you could use it as a station, or you could use it as your small group instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've done it with small group, then it'd be very easy for this to become a station because they've done it with you, they know what to do. So then they can go and do work it like that.
Okay,
So.
I like those.
Well, good. Well, all right. So we'll talk more tomorrow when we meet with the other teachers, and we'll talk more. And then if you decide you do want me to help you work on a PowerPoint or dividing up your groups, like really delving into that data and seeing how you space out your groups. If you decide you do want to change it up, let me know, and we'll get together and look at that together. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What is it? Kind of a version of this. What's the other one with the kids do surveys? Kahoots. We've been doing Kahoots in class.
Oh yeah.
So one for math and for different ones.
Right. So we're doing Kahoot today for Fun Friday. On Fridays, if my students get all their minutes, then we do Fun Friday. So today we are using Kahoot for Fun Fridays. So Nearpod is the digital tool that we're gonna be using today, and Nearpod is very different than Kahoot. So Nearpod, you can go in and find games in Nearpod and just play a game, kind of like Kahoot, but also one of the things that Nearpod has is the option to do a whole lesson. And you can go in and find lessons that someone else has already generated, or you can create your own lesson. So today will be a lesson that I created within there, but you can also just go in where it says like discover, and you can type in CBC words, and there's lessons. Or you can type in, like for 3rd grade, they have a lot of lessons that are TEKS based to help them with STAR. So for my 4th grade students, I use this a lot on Mondays for whole group, and we work on specific things like S blends. Like I can type in S blends, and it'll bring up a whole lesson on S blends. So this is what I use this a lot for whole group. So today we're going to be using Nearpod. What I do for my students is I add Nearpod as an app in my Clever account. So my students know they just log in, they go to Clever, they go, if they're in Waggle, I have all of my apps that I use for them there. If they're in System 44, I have the apps that I use for them there. So I would tell them, go to Clever and then go to Nearpod. So then once they're in Nearpod, it's going to ask them for a code, and that's where you guys should be at this point. It should be asking you for a code. So as from the teacher standpoint, this is what you would see when you go in. So I can go up here, this is where I said I could search by topic or standard, and it would bring up the lesson for me. Or I can create my own lesson, and that's what I did for you guys here today. So you can see that next Monday I already have my lessons in here. I'll be working on double letter vowels, A-I-A-Y, with my 2nd grade students. With my 3rd grade students, we're gonna be working on some vocabulary for things in the community like market, stores. One of the things I've noticed in my small group is that vocabulary is a huge problem. They can read the words, but they don't know what they mean, right? So we're gonna work on some neighborhood vocabulary. So for you guys, this is the lesson that I created for you. There's 2 formats you can do. You can do student paced, where the student does it all on their own. So they would put in headphones and they would go through the lesson all on their own. Or you can do live participation, and that's what we're gonna do today, because we're gonna do whole group lesson. So I would select live participation, and I wanna start a new session. There is your code. So you're gonna type in your code. One of the things I like to remind the students is that they do not have to capitalize. It will capitalize it for them. So if your students, I have several students that letter recognition is a problem. It's one of the things that we're really dealing with. So I would need to write it on the board in lowercase letters, because their Chromebook has it in lowercase letters, right? So I might need to write it in lowercase letters if that is something that is a problem. Everybody got that? If something happens and you get kicked out, which does happen a lot, I'm in a computer lab, so there are so many computers in here, and sometimes Miss April is working on these computers from her office. So sometimes students do get kicked out just because of all of the atmospheric Wi-Fi things. So if you do get kicked out, at the top is your code. So it's always at the top of the lesson, and you can just look at the top of the lesson and see that. So today we're going to talk about using data to drive our small group instruction. This is one of our focuses for ILT. I'm a member of the ILT team, and one of our focuses for our campus, in case you don't know what ILT is, that's Instructional Leadership Team. So one of our focuses for our campus is small group instruction, but using data to drive it. So make sure we're not just deciding to do a lesson one day. That's cute on Teacher Pay Teacher. We want to make sure that it's data driven, right? So that's our objective today, is to make sure that we're using data to drive that small group instruction, and that we're using varied instructional approaches. So Nearpod, this would be a different instructional approach, right? Small group is going to be a different instructional approach, and we're going to talk about some of the different things that we could use in small group. Our essential question, how can we use the data that we've learned from RTI meetings? So we've already met in RTI, right? Our team meetings, so you guys meet on a specific day for PLCs. You also meet with your individual teams on a specific day. You're gathering data there. And then your small group, so the things that you're doing at your back table with that small group. So we want to make sure that we're using the data to drive all of that data to drive that instruction. So here's where I'm gonna ask you to interact with me, and the kids love this because you can type in your answers, you can voice record your answer, or you can go in and select a GIF, so you can upload a picture as an answer. So today I wanna know what types of data does GISD, so our district, what types of data are they having you look at? So you're gonna submit your answer, you can choose any of those formats to submit your answer. I'm going to do a sample one. You're good, don't worry about it, you're good. Nice, I like the books for reading levels, good job. So for me, oral reading fluency, my fluency progress monitoring really drives my small group. That is one of the ways that I really decide who is in what group, right? Because our M class, our Renaissance, my Waggle, those progress monitors, what we find sometimes is that students just click answers, right? For you guys, for M class, it's better because you're doing the input, right? They're saying it to you and you are using an iPad or a Chromebook to you do the input. So M class is gonna be a little more accurate data. Renaissance, they're choosing the answer. So if they're tired that day, if they're hungry that day, if they're bored that day, if they're whatever, hyper that day, it could really fluctuate what the data, it could skew the data, right? For me, Waggle is the same way. It's a progress monitor that I put them in, and they have the time that they have to take it. And if they're bored that day or whatever, they might just click A. And so for me, my fluency, the progress monitoring that I do really drives a lot of my small group instruction. So learning A to Z and your decodable books. I don't do reading A to Z, so how does that work? How does that look?
We can have like the grade, the reading levels from there. We can like print out some books for students depending on the level. They have some activities that they can do, and we can know if they are making progress or not.
The students can read.
The book online.
Okay, so they read it aloud
They
into,
can read it aloud on the online, or we can print it for them, and we can work with small groups.
Okay.
Groups, and they have some activities. But if we want to test like the whole group, we can do it too with reading aloud online. Then they're gonna take a quiz to see and to check comprehension.
Okay.
And that's really good.
okay, so what does the data look like for you? How do you pull data from reading A to Z?
It kind of breaks it down. There's actually other forms you can go in and as you're doing audio, okay, they made an error here, it does this, and kind of keeps score for you on what they've missed, okay, this is how.
Okay, so like instead of you having to do a running record on paper,
Yes, they can run,
it basically-
it has
Yeah.
some running records online.
It
And
does,
I
you have
put
to fill in the form.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
You listen and you're making the note, the note.
So kind of like M class, like y'all are doing
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and you can
It's kinda
record
similar.
their voice, and then you can
Okay.
listen and check if they make any mistake or something.
And do y'all use that on both sides, Gabby? Do y'all use, is that SLAR and ELAR?
Yes.
Yeah, so
We
you,
have the option to do it like in Spanish.
Mhm.
okay, Spanish or English. Okay, good, all right, so that's great data,
It's
right?
an extra tool.
Yes, okay, perfect, I like it. So, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do a little engagement, we're gonna watch a video. This is a video of a teacher from a different district. Someone in one of my classes, sent this to me, I actually had a different video uploaded, but I really like this one because they do a lot of things similar to us. But what I want you to do as you're watching the video is, I want you to be thinking, what are some similarities and what are some differences to how you run your small group? And then we're gonna discuss that afterwards, okay? So this is something else for me to tell you about Nearpod. You have two options if you are showing the students a video. They can watch it on their on there if you want everybody to put on headphones and take the 5 minutes to watch the video, or you can do it, select teacher plays, and then their screens will go dark and it will say all eyes on teacher screen, right? So I like to do that just because I wanna make sure that I can see them and know that they're doing that, but there are multiple ways to do this.
We're gonna go ahead and stop there. We're gonna go ahead and go into daily 5. Alright, everyone needs to be doing what they're doing today in 10, 9.
Haley uses a clapping pattern to respectfully indicate to students when they should be finished transitioning into their small groups.
8, 7, 6.
Haley is working on reading with the first of her 4 different small groups.
Just like we said.
Some flies are small, others are big.
Thanks. Remember, I feel like we've been another music. Look for any that have ES or IES. Go on a word hunt for those. And try to find any of them with ES.
In groups 2, 3, and 4, students work independently in learning stations or centers. Haley transitions the class so that she can meet with a second group of students in small group.
Class. Yes. I'm sorry if you're on a computer, but you might have to sign off if you are in green group. How many are there? Just 3? Right, so the bird flies. Okay, so the bird splashes, the bird sings, the bird flies. Go ahead and finish reading the rest of the words on that page.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the video here. And let's start with similarities. What are some similarities that you guys notice that are similar to your personal small group time?
The presentation they have, I know that we kind of use like, the Google slide.
Okay,
For the kids to know where
they go.
okay, perfect. What else? Something else?
Transitioning way. In my case, I don't use the clap, but I say, for example, when I say go, you have 30 seconds to start like organizing everything and going to the station you have.
Okay, nice. So, we learned that in a Skyrockets training. Have you been to a Skyrockets training? Yeah. So I love that I'm giving them an amount of time and this is what you're going to do within that time, right? And they don't go till you say whatever your word is, right?
And we have the same, we do the transition, the timing, but they have the 1 minute warning, their timer is the even 1 minute, so they know it's time to start wrapping up what they're doing.
Okay,
So that they know when they put those on.
nice. So do you use a timer like embedded within your slide
Yeah,
or
it's in the slide with the groups.
embedded?
but
Okay,
My class is a little bit different, 'cause I can only do 1 rotation,
right,
because of the time constraint, because it's math that you learn, that's all. So we
Right.
have no time for more, so I only get 1 rotation, so I have a daily 5, I mean, it's just, we have to spread out through the week, have them like a daily
Right.
5 of us. So,
Okay.
yeah.
okay, perfect. Alright, so differences, what are some things she did different? So you mentioned the clapping, like, you have a transition, but that, it's not that
It's not
specific
every
transition, okay? Anything else you noticed different?
I like her transition better. I like the clapping, it's nice because you responded well and it wasn't as in your, it was just relaxing, like it's,
Yeah,
it's different than what I do, but I really
She
like it.
uses like colors or groups. I saw leopard.
She did like green group.
yeah,
But
different,
She had like different teams too.
yes,
Yeah.
mhm.
Maybe school.
That was nice.
Yeah, I like the use of colors, and we're gonna talk more about that, as we move forward. But, so some similarities and some differences, but basically when you're coming in and you're being observed by an ILT member on the team, these are the things that they're looking for. Are you in small group with your student? Is there transition? Are there clear expectations? We didn't see students up running around and asking the teacher, Miss, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, there's clear expectations for where they're going and what they're doing, right? So just one of the things that we've had as ILT members is people questioning, like, well, what are you looking for? Like, why are you coming? That's all we're looking for, is that you're in a small group with a specific amount of students, you have something that's data driven, and everybody else knows their expectation and they're engaged in whatever they're doing, right? So I really like that video. So let's move on to some data. So we've talked a little bit about some of the types of data that you guys have used, that you guys are using. And this is one of the forms that Ms. Dodson created for you guys if you use mClass to drive your data. I did these, I know you're working on these in PLC, but I've embedded these so that you can see, and you can blow it up on your screen if you need to increase it. If it's not big enough, you just go to the top and zoom in if you need to see it better. But I just wanted to make sure that you were clear on how to use this. So in order to do that, I put in an example from Ms. Weir, because Ms. Weir shared one of hers with me. So I'm gonna show you, so this is the blank form, this is what Ms. Dodson shared with you, and if you don't have access to this, let us know and I'll make sure that you get access to that blank document, but everybody should have access to it in your drive. Then this is an example of how Ms. Weir uses it. So I'm gonna blow this up so we can kind of look at it, and so I can talk about it a little more. Okay, so this is her second grade intervention. At the top, she has her date, and she has the key of what are the different things that she might be working on, right? So instead of having to write out phonological awareness, she can just put PA or PHA, right? Or yes. So then she goes in, and by date, she is writing out specific things that she may have noticed during that time. Here's how this data is different than what you're getting from mClass, what you're getting from Reading A to Z, what you're getting from Waggle, what I get from Waggle. So those things give us a number, right? So 367 to 387, okay. Or book level D, right? Okay, so we're getting a number, and it's important to have that data. I'm not trying to do away with that, but the reason it's important to use this data is because this is what you're seeing as a teacher with your student, and you're seeing it either every day or you're seeing it once a week or whatever you're meeting with them. So she's putting in more specific information like struggled and he was waiting for others to blend, or he didn't know it well, he doesn't know all his letters. So this type of data is important when we come into those RTI meetings, because this is where, and I know you guys aren't as familiar with this because we can't pull for you because of your dual language, because of but they're working on that. They're trying to get y'all interventionists for your dual language program. But for me as an interventionist, this is very important, because if you're working on letter sounds, that's basically what a lot of my kids are working on. So if I've got a student who's ready to progress out of Waggle, and I know you've got a student that needs letter sounds, what we could do is progress that student out where he's tier 2 working with you, and pull that tier 3 student in with me. So this type of data is very important for you to keep just little notes on little things that you're seeing. If they're depending on others, or they're constantly having to refer to your word wall, or they're just not progressing, and we're really seeing that tier 3 action, right? That's where, as interventionists, we can come in and help more. Does everybody understand that? Are y'all using this?
We just recently started using that.
Okay.
But like, we make our own little notes every now and then, like in a notebook or something, you scribble
Right.
stuff down, but not in this format.
Not in this
We
format.
just started doing it.
Okay, nice. So if you need help with this, Ms. Dodson, Ms. Dudenhaver, myself, let us know, and we can come in and work with you on things that would be helpful that we actually discussed during those RTI meetings. So I wanted to make sure that I showed you those options. So the next thing is talking about engagement, right? So classroom management and those rotations through are very important. I know you talked about y'all are already using slides, so I'll go through this real quickly. Since you're already using a slide, I don't need to explain to you how it works. These are just some optional slides that I have sent out to the school. I sent this out to everybody, so you can find it in an email from me. Ms. Mitchell in 4th grade uses this one. So this is color-coded, and it has those pictorials. But one thing you can see, this is gonna be a little more 4th grade biased. This might be a little confusing for second grade, right? But I like it as a fourth grade option. The next slide, Miss Callison, is what I use, and this would be great for you. Like you're saying, you only get to meet with them once a day. So that's how I get to meet with them as well. So Monday is my whole group lesson, right? So in my Monday column, first I designate my group so they know what group they're in. It's color coded and it's designated what group they're in. And this could change every 6 weeks. After those RTI meetings, these groups may change, right? Depending on their progression. So Monday, whole group lesson. Then here are my three. I have my teacher table. I have a technology station, which is Waggle for me. That might be reading A to Z for you. It might be Epic for you. And then I have word work. So that's gonna be whatever our whole group lesson was that week, it's gonna be an extension of that. So this week we worked on CBC words. So I'm gonna have some kind of activity at word work that has to do with CBC words, consonant, vowel, consonant, right? So that they're working on that. So on Tuesday, they know, they come in, they look at my board. Danny, Jacob, Anthony, Clarissa are gonna come to my back table. They're at my teacher table. Christy, Kira, Juliet, Arlette are gonna go to Waggle. And Camilla, Eduardo, Jasmine, and Elizabeth are gonna go to word work, right? Wednesday, so it's just gonna go on a rotation. So I do like you, I'm only gonna see them at my back table one day a week. But throughout the week, everybody's gonna get to come to my back table and we're gonna get to work on that. On Fridays is Fun Friday, so on Fridays, we do an extension of whatever our whole group lesson was, but I either do it using GimKit or I do it using Kahoot, some sort of fun activity. For my SIPS kids who are working on alphabet, just their letter recognition, today we played alphabet bingo for Fun Friday. So that was, whatever, some kind of fun thing on Fridays. If I have several students that were absent that week and did not get to have this small group with me, on Friday, I'll pull those kids back and I'll have the other kids go into my Clever and do something fun. I'll say, go on, whatever you want in Clever today. Or I'll turn out all the lights and they'll read with finger lights. They can climb under the tables and go sit anywhere in the room and read with finger lights so that I can catch up those students that were absent and didn't get to meet with me at my small group. So that's kind of what that looks like. So this might be a better, still has that timer embedded in there. So if you want those other groups to rotate while you're meeting with me, for me, I don't use the timer because they stay at that station all day and then they're gonna go to the next station the next day. But if you needed that, you can change out that timer that's embedded. And then the last one is also color coded, like we saw the lady in the video. This to me is a little more second grade friendly. You can see your pictorial representation easier. You see the word work, you see teacher table, you see what they're working on, and the color is this teacher, she puts color dots on their desks so that they know what group they're in. So if you group your students in groups of 4, that may be where you have like one of your higher students, you might have a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3, you may have so that they can help each other work during class time. But for small group, you may want to go, I want all my tier 1 students in the blue group, I want all my tier 2 students in so on their desk, if it's grouped in 4, you might have a green dot, a yellow dot, a pink dot, based on your. So again, it has that timer embedded in there, so it's a good option for that. So that is kind of some options to help you with classroom management and engagement. Another thing that I shared that I heard Ms. Guzman saying that y'all are using this now is Ask 3 Before Me, right? So this is a poster that I made up. So what I do when I'm at small group, I put this goes out here so that it's very visible, because what do they want to do, right? They're here at this table, they want to come and ask me, right? So they see my big stop sign and they know that they have to ask 3 before me. And what that looks like for me, there's different ways to do this, but what that looks like for me is first they have to ask themselves, can I fix this problem? So if it's can I go to the restroom? They know they don't ask me to go to the restroom. If the green clip is there, they get the green clip and they go to the restroom. So that's something they can fix within themselves. They don't have to come talk to me for that, right? Or if it's not something they can ask, so then they move to step 2, I'm gonna ask somebody in my group. So I'm gonna say, Gladys, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me do this? Right, they're gonna talk to that person and that person's gonna help them. If that person can help them, then they're gonna go to somebody in another group and they're gonna say, hey, I don't know what what did y'all do yesterday when y'all were here, right? And they're gonna talk to that person. Then if that can't be helped, then they can come and talk to me. What I always do, because sometimes they forget, if I see a student come into my back table, I'm not gonna stop doing what I'm doing with my kids, I'm gonna do this. Did you ask 3 before me? And a lot of times they'll just turn around and go back. If they didn't, then they'll say, yes ma'am, I need your help with this. So this is a great tool if just an option. And like I said, there's different ways to do it. That's just the way that I implement it for my small group, and it really works well for me. So, what are some of your small group management tips? So again, go in, you can type in your answer, you can voice record your answer, you can use a GIF, you can record a video of yourself telling us your answer. I'm gonna go back and this time I'm gonna choose something out of my drive, something that I use as a small group management tool when I was in a second grade homeroom classroom. Yes, yeah, that's what Katie Heffron used. Katie Heffron had a Bitmoji one that she
The
used.
only way to interrupt me. Like,
Yeah,
anything
nice,
like
yes,
this.
uh-huh. Yeah, so, yeah, and they love those. They love to see our Bitmojis. Miss, you're on Snap? Okay, so I love this one. This is something that I got to see when I observed Gabby's small group. So she has a bell similar to this that she keeps at her back table. And if their voice level is not at the voice level that she thinks it needs to be at, and I saw this in person at work. So she's working with her small group, she hears it's too loud. All of a sudden the voice levels just dropped, like they knew. So I love that tool. That's a great tip and trick to use. Also, another one that people had used was the bubbles. Have y'all seen that? It's an app and it has bubbles, and you set at what voice level you want. And then if the bubbles start getting too big, then they know that they have to come down. So it's an app. She said she has to do it on her computer and like set it up at her computer. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but you know, you can always set it near that group that's always a little bit too loud. You can always set up your, you know, but so anyway, lots of different things. Oh, I like that you have signs on the walls for your routines. Okay. Very cool, yeah. So lots of cool tips and tricks that we can use. So last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna evaluate, all right? So we're gonna evaluate. This is one of the ways that I love to evaluate with my kids when I'm using Nearpod. It's a game called Time to Climb. So we're gonna evaluate with Time to Climb. Is this the Indian House Conference?
We still have 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay, so we're just gonna play this really quickly, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go into the beach. You're going to select your avatar super quickly, and then we'll just really quickly evaluate this lesson. All right, here we go. The kids love this. Sorry, I should have warned you. If you run out of time, it'll. Yeah. Okay, so then what I would do is like my top three. So normally there's only three of you, but normally there's a class. So on my top three, they might be able to come pick an eraser. They might be able to come pick a sticker or some kind of fun thing to do that. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. And if there's any questions that you have about using your data or anything that you have questions about using